What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. And I have something that's been an amazing hit and excitement that's been happening over the last 2 weeks. As you know, I got my hands on Ghost of Yotei for PlayStation 5 on day one, and I have completed the game, right? It has been an amazing journey thus far. I would say the last 6 days I've invested close to around 3 hours a day. And it is a pretty small game, like you can see, right? I mean, in total, I would say it's just about 20 hours at the max. If you want to complete the whole game, maybe about 25, 30 to 40 hours as well. So without further ado, let me take you through the review of Ghost of Yotei. Now, coming to the game mechanics. This particular game has by far had the most smooth combat, the most amazing visuals, and the most amazing gameplay, right? The plot is pretty clear, the gameplay, the synopsis, all of that is pretty straightforward. Nothing to dig, too deep into, I would say. But to be very frank with you, I must tell you that after Ghost of Tsushima, which is the prequel, this game has gone and stretched boundaries beyond a point, right? I honestly love playing this game, and probably post every day's work, I would run to come back to ensure my PlayStation was turned on just to play this game. Primarily because it drove that kind of, it really drove that kind of attention in my life on a daily basis. The need and want to play the game on an everyday basis was something that was very surprising for me over the last 2 years of all the releases that we had, right? This was my third, or rather second Japanese game and third open world game. I wouldn't call Assassin's Creed Mirage a complete open world, but yes, you could do a lot of stuff that you would usually do in an open world game. And then fast forward to March of this year, we had Assassin's Creed Shadows, and unfortunately, I didn't quite complete more than 70% of the game until now. But a lot of my friends have finished the game and they had high regard to it. But I wouldn't want to complain because I haven't invested too much time. But the only reason why I was not able to go beyond that was maybe because I was saturated playing, open world games, or rather Japanese open world games. So I was a little dicey on how I'm going to be reacting to Ghost of Yotei's release, but trust me, I have had 0% of regret playing this game. It has by far been the most amazing visual game in the last 2 years on PlayStation 5. The combat, like I said, is insane. The game engine, has delivered something beyond what anybody could expect in a game in the last 4 to 5 years. Of course, Ghost of Tsushima created that sort of, base, to have that kind of expectation from Sucker Punch, but they have delivered beyond what they could have imagined, or what we could have imagined with Ghost of Yotei. Now, no spoiler alert, I can assure you there are not going to be any spoilers, but as a protagonist, you play as Atsu, right? It is more inclined towards taking revenge for something that happened to her in the starting of the game, as you may possibly play and explore. But as the game progresses, you realize that Atsu as a character has calmed down a lot more, even with the introduction of many other characters who come along in the way as you play the game. But this character really was something that you could invest a lot of time in. She is absolutely capable. She is very, very intriguing, and she is the one who will create a lot of curiosity in your mind while you're playing this game, right? Because every single time you come across something that you're able to, pass or surpass, you're more surprised with the kind of impact that Atsu leaves behind for you as a character. We've had many such games where characters have, left a huge and a deep impact. A couple of them to name are Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series, Arthur Morgan from Red Dead Redemption 2, and of course the three most famous characters in Grand Theft Auto 5. And I would definitely say Jin Sakai from Ghost of Tsushima, and now Atsu from Ghost of Yotei. Overall, I felt the gaming experience to be very, very immersive. I unfortunately don't have my 4K TV right now, which is ideally would have been placed here. It's got a little bit of a display issue, so I transferred the PlayStation 5 to the living room where I have a slightly bigger TV, but it's not a fully 4K TV, it's a full HD. But even then, I saw that the game performance, when it came to graphics, when it came to the combat, the mechanism, etc., was top notch. And trust me, you will be moved by every single combat move that she makes in the game, and this is throughout the game, right? Now, coming to the visual appeal of this game, every single region I don't want to disclose the location, but every single region in this game was breathtaking. Like, it even got to extents where my mom or dad would walk by and they would be taken aback and would sit down to just, sort of explore alongside me, right? And that really sort of changed the approach to the game, or the approach that anybody would have towards this game, right? Now, in the past 5 years, yes, we've had definite year-on-year releases like FC25, FC26, NBA, and all of these games that usually come year on year. But to be honest with you, what I really found is, although Assassin's Creed Shadows did have a really good, the graphics were insane and the aesthetic look of the game was fantastic, but somewhere I did feel that it got a little, a little draggy, I would say. But that's definitely, I would vouch for the fact that that's definitely not the case with Ghost of Yotei. Primarily because I really felt that every single mission had a purpose. Even when you do the side quests, you realize that you do win rewards for doing the side quests, and they're not too long. You don't have to travel from point A to point B, it taking you a long time to reach there, etc. It just didn't matter. Because in this game it's pretty straightforward. You do have regional areas where you had certain tasks to do, and by far I felt that overall the impact and the impression that this game leaves behind is just out of this world. I do know and feel very strongly that this could be a strong contender for Game of the Year in 2025. Of course, we have Battlefield 6 that released about 4 days ago. We have a lot more games coming in this year, and I'm dead sure I feel that this game will definitely win Game of the Year. Now, what about the characters, right? Like I said, you come along, you do surpass many characters in the game, but the core focus remains only on 2 or 3 at the max, right? You being the protagonist, you play as Atsu, like I said. The way the game engine has made sure that it's been able to deliver and give us that sort of an impression of vengeance and revenge and whatnot, because of what sadly happens to Atsu in the beginning, is quite definitely very immersive, right? And obviously, like I said this a couple of times already, the combat is fabulous. This is by far the first game, according to me, where I feel that you're able to change weapons instantly during a combat. And usually you can do that, I'm not saying no, but you can use core weapons that you have as you keep collecting them and unlocking them as the game moves on. You can use any of these core weapons depending on the type of enemy that you're facing. So a particular kind of enemy would only, the katana is the only thing that would work, or the dual katana is the only thing that would work, right? And then you have a spear which basically sort of pokes the enemies, and it's a beautiful story. I feel from deep down, Sucker Punch has made a fabulous storyline of how they show Atsu's relation with family in the past, in the present, and how her life is in the present compared to the past. And that is what sort of shows you that there is so much more than just playing this game. There is actually a very solid, concrete storyline that's gone behind Sucker Punch's idea and thought of making a sequel, which is The Ghost of Yotei. Now, the other advantage or the other plus point that I felt in this game is that you can camp anywhere across the maps, right? And by when I say when somebody wants to camp as Atsu, you have the option to rest, you have the option to eat, and when I say eat, you have such a beautiful way in which you can cook your food. I don't think any game has done this before, but you can use your dual sense to point it downwards for it to sort of heat a lot more in the flame, and then you flip it and then you cook your own food, and as time passes by, anyway you'll end up sleeping. But apart from that, wherever you camp, the advantage is that you can craft weapons depending on all the raw materials that you've collected while exploring the world of Yotei, right? So that was another thing that was very intriguing for me. The relationship that you have with your horse is, again, pretty similar to any other game, nothing too deep to dwell into. But one particular thing that really caught my eye is, I'm sure for the ones who have finished, is the relationship that you have with this wild wolf. Now, the wolf only comes in strikes depending on your abilities that you have been able to, upgrade to. But the way it does come and approach, and sort of when you're low on your spirit, when you're low on your health, it sort of comes in, helps you for that fraction of a second to regain all of what you lost in the last couple of seconds of your combat. And with time, you build a different relationship, but I don't want to get into that. Like I said, no spoilers, right? The last thing that I would like to touch upon in Ghost of Yotei is quite definitely the way the character mellows down. I don't want to get into detail, but I feel the way the game started to how it ended. Yes, as a protagonist, you achieve what your intent and goal was right from the beginning, but I must tell you strongly that just like how we progress in life on a day-to-day basis, I felt the same about Atsu as a character in this beautiful game, as she progressed to become a different human being, even though she wanted to do what she really wanted to do, right? So overall, I would definitely give this game a 10 on 10 according to me. I am looking forward to possibly trying to finish the entire map. I assume I'm about 90% done of the game, but I want to complete the entire story. I want to have a very honest sit down to really figure out what took me this amount of willingness to be able to complete this game to that extent. Like I said, the story isn't too big. You'll be able to complete it in about 20 to 21 hours, which is about 4 to 5 days or 4 hours a day. But completing the side quests is something I really would recommend, because as a character you grow a lot more, just like any other game. But luckily it's not that big, or it doesn't tire you doing a side quest. It's just part and parcel. It's a quick boom boom and then you're done, right? So Ghost of Yotei has been the best release for PlayStation 5 in the last year and a half or two, and I would strongly recommend that you guys give it a try, and let me know what you think about this video. Do share it with like-minded people, and do subscribe. It would mean the world. I have a lot more exciting content coming up. As you know, my channel is into a lot of stuff, but today is all about gaming. Take it easy, fellas. I will see you on the next one. Cheers.